Today I'll be explaining the motion of an object using its position versus time graph. First, let's remember what this kind of graph tells us. On the x-axis, we have time, which shows us how long the object has been moving. On the y-axis, we have position, which shows where the object is located at each moment. By analyzing the shape of the graph, we can figure out if the object is moving forward, moving backward, speeding up, slowing down, or standing still. Now, let's look at the graph step by step. Whenever the graph has a straight, slanted line, that means the object is moving at a constant velocity. The slope of the line tells us how fast it's moving. If the line is going upward, the object is moving forward or away from the starting point. If the line is going downward, the object is moving backward or returning toward the starting point. The steeper the line, the faster the motion. If we see a part of the graph where the line is flat and horizontal, that means the object is not moving at all. Its position isn't changing even though the time is passing. That's what we call being at rest. Now, if the graph is curved, that means the velocity is changing. For example, if the curve is getting steeper and steeper, the object is speeding up. This is called acceleration. If the curve starts steep but then flattens out, the object is slowing down or decelerating. We can also notice turning points when the graph reaches a peak and then starts to go down. That means the object stopped and began moving in the opposite direction. Similarly, if the graph was going down and then starts to rise, the object reversed direction again. Another important detail is that the slope of the line equals velocity. So, sharp positive slopes mean high positive velocity, sharp negative slopes means high negative velocity, and flat slopes mean zero velocity. Overall, this graph tells us a story. By following the shape carefully, we can describe exactly what the object was doing at each moment in time, whether it was at rest, moving forward, moving backward, speeding up and slowing down, or changing direction. So in summary, we see that straight lines mean constant speed, flat lines mean the object is at rest, curves means changing speed or acceleration, peaks and valleys mean changes in direction, and that's how we interpret a position versus time graph. It's like reading the timeline of the object's journey. Thank you.
In this video, I'll be explaining the motion of these two position versus time graphs. Each graph shows how the position of an object changes over time, and we can describe what's happening by looking at as the object is moving, pausing, going up, or going down. For this first graph, we can see that the object starts at 0, following by its ascendance. After this, we can see that it takes a brief pause and then begins to ascend again, which we should have added. After this, it begins to pause once again at its highest point, followed by one big descent until it reaches its lowest point. For this second graph, you can see it looks a little different as it starts at a higher point while also being paused. Followed by this first initial pause, it begins to descend, followed by a second pause at a lower point. After that pause, it descends to its lowest point. After it reaches that lowest point, we can see that it begins to ascend once again, matching its second pause over here, beginning to ascend again, and once again matching that initial pause as well as the highest point. Both of these graphs show us how an object's position can change over time. The slopes within these lines tell us whether the object is ascending, descending, or at a pause. And we can use these to track movements in just about any walk of life. Yeah.
Eric Hernandez, and I'm going to be explaining the last three graphs. So for this third graph here, you can see that we started at the highest point. And for this part, we were using Gabriel as our test subject, but it wasn't really working out because his shirt kept messing up with the graphing. So we decided to use his MacBook, which made it way easier for us to actually graph out what he was walking. So from here, you can see at the starting point, we start to descend, going down. We should have put that we descending here, but I'm sorry. So we're descending, 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 descending. And then once we reached that halfway through, we told him to pause. So he paused for a good 3 seconds. And then he started to descend again, going all the way down, descending, descending, descending. Once he reached towards the graphing tool, that's when we told him to pause, and that's where we ended the first graph.
So you stay still and then go forward, but like go a little more back.
Okay, so
And then
stay still.
okay.
Ready? Forward, still.
Want to go the other way too?
For the fourth graph here, he started right at the beginning of the graphing tool. So you can see this is our lowest point for this graph. So he starts to ascend, going up rapidly. At this point, he was going pretty fast because he had to try to get the little V's into the graphing. So here, he started to ascend super fast, ascending, ascending. We did have some trouble doing this part, but I mean, we kind of figured out at the end that he didn't really have to pause here at these two, the highest points. So once he reached this point, he started to descend right away, descending, descending, and then obviously you could see in this graph there's no pauses at all. So once he reached almost towards the graphing tool, that's when he started to ascend again, going up, and then once he reached the highest point again, we told him to descend right away, so he had no time to pause here. And then the moment he decided to get there, we told him to descend, and that's where we stopped the graph. So here you can see that this one was more of a challenging one. You can see how him just going up and down with the graphing tool. You can see how it makes this nice little V on the graph. We tried to make it more like a more sharper turn, but we just couldn't figure it out. Maybe we could have just probably like actually sprint at this point, but I mean, it still looked pretty good at the end of the day. So I think we kind of got the gist of what we were supposed to do at this point here.
So it's right, yeah.
So I need it to be a straight line.
Okay, go down.
1, 2. It's still a little bit.
And then, oh shit. Go, you're doing it. Go up, go up.
And then it's a still line. And then
And then for our last graph, which was actually the hardest to do, we started at the pause point, at the starting point, kind of close to the graphing tool, but not really. We were maybe, say, a feet or two away from it. We told him so he has to pause. So here he has a pause for a good 2 seconds, I would say. And then he started to ascend. He was ascending, and then once he reached the highest point, we told him to descend pretty fast. So he kind of sprinted towards the graphing tool. We should have put that we descended here, but I mean, you can still tell from here that we were descending. We were descending, up to the lowest point possible that we were doing. So this is our starting point. But both of these are our starting points, but I'm actually not sure why it did that. But as you can see, this is our lowest point, and then once he reached towards the graphing tool, that's when we told him to ascend pretty fastly back. He didn't go back too far, but he ascended to where I say 5 feet away from the graphing tool. And then once he reached there, we told him to pause real quick, a second or two. He paused, and then we told him to ascend one more time. So that's when he started to ascend. And once you reach the second highest point of the graph, that's when we told him the descent. So that's when he started to walk towards the graphing tool again. And we told him to go slower this time, so you could see how the little swirls, you can see how slow he was going. And then once he reached the the graphing tool again, that's when we told him to stop. And that's when we stopped graphing the time versus position.